Okay, guys, I'm back here with you on Thursday, the 29th of August here. Now, yeah, I saw in the voting the S&P was the winner here, but we've done that a couple of times recently, and until we break out of that golden zone here, I don't think we have enough change here. Whereas here in Netflix, there's a trade just sitting here waiting to happen. So this was, what do we get here? So this was the second place. So we'll work on equities today. So Disney is done. Now here's Netflix. Oh, now, of course, we've looked at this before, so here we get that. So now there's a couple of different ways this could be counted. So when you have this kind of, so I've got a 3-day here. So we're going all the way back to 03. So when you're looking at that, the move is so extreme. This is where log can be advantageous, right? So we can go into log scale here, where we get the compression down here. I think the real question here would be whether or not this is 1, 2, and is that truly the 3, or have we just gone 1, 2, and now we're in the third of a larger degree? Yeah, so this is quite the extension in the fifth. It's a tough one to make a distinction here, because right now it doesn't look like, well, you just look at here. Okay, so if the 5 is complete, right? I mean, granted we're in log scale, but even if I take it out of log scale, so that's one hell of a big 5, right? I mean, it's quite disproportionate to have that 5. So the alternate be 1, 2, and then this would be the 3. The other obvious issue here would be the time symmetry, right? So we're talking about, Jesus, what do we do? 15 years to complete this impulse, and we're going to correct it in 6 months. Seems unlikely. Now, I've just wicked off here the absolute low, the 03 low, and just gone up to the high. So we're not out of bounds of what could be, in terms of the depth of the retracement, in terms of what could be a second here. I had that, well, I'll show you that when we go to the daily. But this, does that look like it could be done? I mean, of course, anything's possible, but something more along those lines. So we were just getting started on the correction, although it's, right, so, how much weight do you want to put in the Elliott? So you got a bit of a conundrum here. Something is completed up here, right, given the depth of the retracement. So what did we get to? 422, and we retraced to 229. That's pretty good. Damn near 50%, right? So that's a hell of a correction off of this move. But if you were thinking that this was a 1, 2, it'd be just as valid here for potentially the 4 at that degree. So hard to make that call until we see how this leg here resolves. So let me go to a daily here, right? So always with equities, we work off the daily. So just looking here, okay, so let's just look at the very first part of it, right? So if that's the A, right, now we've gone, this is a little tricky here. So if this is the A and that's the B, so we get a nice clean A wave. There's the ABC into the B. Now we break the sell side. Well, let's just move that off here. So we lose the sell side algo here, but technically, because we break the 65. But again, right, we see this. These are very slight little breaks, right? And from the break, you're getting the reaction. So again, we were kind of pondering this right on this. If we were pondering this, really a small break. We were pondering this in the midst of this volatility. It's very possible they've recalibrated this algorithm to accommodate more volatility. So maybe they're going to the 6-8 is something we were considering looking at the S&P, because the S&P has done the exact same thing up here, right? They're all bumping into it, and the S&P's had slight breaks as well. So it's almost identical, right? A major component like this. So the ABC, so you have to assume they stayed short here from the ABC. It certainly wouldn't invalidate the Elliott count. So we do get that, right? So there's the first part of that correction. Now, I'm going to put this back on here because obviously this is an important area to the market, right? That's pretty stiff resistance, been tested 3 times. So given that, something up here, again, not necessarily. I mean, it's either 3 or 5. So with that in, so you'd be thinking, okay, I've got my ABC. I understand the time variable here. So what is this? Well, if you were thinking the correction is not enough, well, maybe you'd be over here thinking, okay, well, there's the ABC. Maybe that's just my W. Well, is that enough? Is that your X? Right, so let's think about it. So X would need to be counter trend. Is that enough to give you? It's a bit of a stretch there, right? Maybe, right? So as we just looked at it here, so we've gone far enough, right? Pardon me, from the pivot high here, we've gone to the 786, and same thing, slight breaks here, right? So it's trading technically, but we're getting a little inconsistency or a little bit of volatility around the technical pivot. So given how consistently that's been rejected at that level. I think it's more like if we're going to get an X here. I think this is the symmetry is not great here to call that X complete, right? So you're going A, B, right? That C just wouldn't do it. So if we're going to get something, and this would make more sense, right? If we're going to pivot here, I'll show you why that's a contender. If we were to get something like this and then head down to get a deeper Y, right? So you can't. How do you know? So is that enough to trade off of? Well, not for me, right? But I'll show you what is. All right. So from this pivot here, of course, the first thing you're going to go is go, well, why does it stop there? So you might look left and go, okay, well, there's a pivot right there. So maybe it's the structure, right? Prior resistance becomes the support. Okay, that's a contender. Well, what's the most obvious thing we'd look for, right? So just off of the low, up to the high. Okay, so. Right? It's not not the 618. Goes past the 618 to get in the golden zone. So what do we have there? All right, well, I know members will already know this. All right, what we have here is a golden corner pocket. All right, now, if I see that, I do not care about any of that. I don't care. Well, that's what I'm trying to do. I don't care. I don't care what the Elliott count is. I'm all over that every time. I do not care that I'm not sure where I am in the Elliott count. I absolutely do not care. That is the priority to me because all I see here it could be a 1-2, it could be the A, B of a larger X if this Elliott count's going to play out. So then in addition to that, right, just to keep it, so get everything covered here. So I get a pretty fat target up here. Now, is it an X? Is it a 2? Is it a 3? Is this an A, B, C? Well, I'd look at some other. Let's get that. I'd look at some other things here. All right, so I've got the algo target length of this swing projected from the low of this swing. If I get it right there, getting a pretty nice fat target up here. Now, what's interesting about that, right, is look where that target would fit relative to the prior high. Interesting, huh? So if we're gonna get up here and get through this, well, this is one hell of a rip here, right? But that is no hesitation, right? I take that every time. Now from here, so let's just look at the P&L on this and what you're looking at here. So if you're buying it here, right? So we've had the reaction off of the golden zone. That's what you're looking for. So just use this target here. Zero reason to take that beyond the 65. It's already been tested. It's held. Why would you give it more room? No reason to, right? You want to trade this, or if you're an investor, well, maybe a different story. But if you're trading this, no reason to go anything beyond that pivot. The assumption is now that is the low. So this 80% now is in play. 80%, right? Not, people forget that. Not 100%, 80% that we get to that median line, right? Meaning it could sure as hell could fail. But in terms of a trade setup, they don't get any better than that. Well, could it get better? Well, yeah, I guess it could, right? So you could have a cleaner 3 coming down there. Could be cleaner. You got a big gap here. So we're on a daily. Note the big gap here, right? Market abhors a gap. All right, so that gap is going to want to be filled. Much like I was trying to show this to you guys earlier. See this little gap here, all right, that was left unfilled. If I bring that over here. Right, we got into it. We didn't technically close it because we didn't get to that low, but we got in. You call that a fill, right? But we didn't get to the low here, but we did get into the gap to get so, and that. Let's see. Let's bring this back over here. It's being a bit dramatic there. Okay, so they're WXY. Okay, so you look here. So how confident are we in this pivot here? Well, there's a couple of ways here. Can we build a case here for how strong, how much conviction do we want to have here? Come here. So from the pivot here, length of my A projected from my B, I'm not to the tick here, but I get through the 272. Could be that this is just a last little push here to fill the gap, right? Algos will be there to ensure that happens. But then I'd be pulling for some other, I'd be looking for some other pivots here. So let me take that off. All right, what are we related to? What could be related to? What's the last swing? Well, I'd start here. That's the last one that goes up. All right, get through the 50, but I might check back one to see. Interesting. So then you'd think, okay, well, was this technical? Right? Could they? So if this is technical and this is technical, well, okay. So I've got a series of pivots that I could use here. I think this is going to be we're going to be too narrow, but this might play into the 4. Yeah, we're just going to get confused there. But you see, all I'm trying to do here is look up and see if, well. So, for example, if I took that, where's my shit? Where are we? Over here. And I extended it left, right? This is a good little, shit, come here. Let's go this way. Let's extend it left. All right, so am I catching anything down here? Well, not enough to where I would keep that. I would keep that in that state. But I might be looking back here. Let's take that off. Just out of curiosity, right? I'd be looking for something here that maybe I could build on. So I might use. Where'd you go here? So I might come to my fib channel here, just to see. If I come up here. Don't really see anything I love. So if I just go, I'm looking for something. So if I double the channel here, I don't love it here. I'm looking for something specific on that. Now that kind of gets interesting. All right, so I'm just working from this low down here, trying to see. So here's my 2618 off of that. Is there enough there? Well, I like the 2% here, catching the upside of that. So having identified that, now of course that's just a crazy amount of lines here. So how do you deal with that? Well, we can take that off. What would we end up with there? 8 to 1 was our trade there. If you're going after that, this might be too crowded. So what you could do, which I'll often, now that I've kind of figured out how to do it, I'll just take that off. Maybe if I want to check for something like that, I'll put that back on. Let's take this one off, just to see if I'm going to be any additional confluence up here. I don't see much else here that I was just looking to see if there was something we might find up here. If we I'll start connecting highs and lows just to see. Okay, so center line here kind of gets my interest, right? You note here. So we get the confluence here. So this spot here we've got right at the 618. Interesting. So there's nothing here that says don't buy that. Oscillators give us any help down here? Well, we've gotten pretty hot in terms of oversold. On the RSI here, no divergence here. Well, maybe you're getting kind of far apart here. Maybe you could make this claim here that you've got some divergence. Well, you don't technically have divergence. Maybe some hidden divergence here, but really the basis of the trade is the golden corner, right? We're in the golden zone. Got multiple targets up here. Got a trend line and a set of median lines. I can work these lower channels here. I'm seeing confluence here. I like this. So this one you might just change that color so as not to confuse yourself. Let's go down a little bit lower here. So I can just see that there's nice confluence at some of these technical pivots. Right, so I like this intersection here, right, at that pivot, straight down to the golden zone. Here's the trade, right into that location here. reasonable that we'll anticipate that there'll be stops there, but that can be, right, those stops. I remember buyers at highs create new highs. That fuel can launch us up here to get to some of these upper targets. If indeed, so the assumption being then that the 5 is still to come, this ends up being a 3. If that's going to fly as if this is going to be a completed correction, well, it'll be very short in time, right? So maybe Netflix is just big and bad enough to be able to make that happen, that you'd have such a shallow correction for a 2. I think that's less likely. So it makes me think this is the 3, 4, and we're still seeking the 5. But in terms of just a straight technical trade setup, I mean, how do you not like? What was our risk was so small here if you're buying just for the first algo target. It's a good 8-to-1 there with a stop just on the other side. Yeah. Why would you not take that trade? All right, you've got a better one, jump on it, but that's a pretty good one. Okay, guys, there you go. Something to chew on. Okay.